A Jazz Fusion guy with one of my how-to videos. Now, I've got a retaining wall here between me and my neighbor, and I've got a planting bed that runs along the driveway, a raised bed, but it didn't always look like this. The landscape timber retaining wall here used to stop right here, and all the way down to the end of the driveway was just this sloping hill, and didn't look very good. And we had a situation where every time it rained a lot, all of our mulch and dirt would flow out into the driveway, out to the street. We just didn't find that to be a very good situation. We already had our little garden here and our pavers and whatnot, and we decided it was time to do something. For, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, my wife had been saying, let's put a wall right here by the driveway. And I said, that's a bad idea. We're gonna drive back over it, or pop our tires, or ruin whatever we put in, and that's just not a good idea. Her original idea, which wasn't a bad idea, was to put in a little wall like that, which is, you know, it's not very tall. And I have backed over these, backing out our curvaceous driveway many times, and it was a real sad situation. So, I did not take videos while I was creating this, but I did take a lot of still shots to record what I did and how it turned out. So the next part of the video is going to be how I did this, and some suggestions for you out there if you decide you want to do something like this. Now, one thing you'll see maybe in the still shot pictures is when these new landscape timbers were put in, they were bright, bright, bright. And this old wall here was dark, 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 and I really hated the contrast. So what I did was I came in with a pressure washer and got rid of the age and the gunk on this older retaining wall, and it blends a little better. And over time, these new landscape timbers that I put in back in April, they will start to age and gray out, and this interface here will not look so bad. So let's get into the step-by-step and how I did this. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the reason I decided to do this is after the many years my wife asking me to put in a retaining wall of some sort, and I kept saying no, because she wanted it right by the driveway. And both she and I were terrible backup drivers on this driveway. But when she said, let's take a straight line and start this distance from the driveway and run a straight line all parallel, somewhat parallel to the driveway. And I realized if we did that, and I pulled a straight line from where that other end of the wall was to right here, and that worked out great. Now and I decided to do it. Now another thing that you'll see in the video, I don't know whether you'll be able to see this or not, but the former owners put in landscape timber as a property divider. And you can see them going between my yard and the neighbor's yard to mark the property line. And once we got this new wall in here going down by the driveway, the landscape timbers that were running along this side, excuse me, the railroad ties, if I called these before railroad, didn't call them railroad ties, that's what they were. They were running all along the property line between my neighbor and myself. He was elated that I was going to take them out and put in landscape timbers. And again, in the video, you'll see the difference. In the still shot discussion, you'll see what I'm talking about, the before and the after. Okay, this starts the discussion of the stills photos. So the first thing we wanted to do was to put in the line, the straight line going from this paver all the way back to the retaining wall. And what we noticed when we started clearing out stuff is you see this orange line here? That is our cable from the cable company for TV, for internet, for phone. And these guys had not even buried it. They'd only thrown mulch over top of it and said they'd buried it. So I had to pull it out of the way. I got it braced here with a landscape timber nail, and it was a huge hassle. Eventually we called the company, and they came and they dug right along the driveway. We removed these pavers here, and they got everything out of the way so we could finish our project. Truly slack. And there's the straight line and the cable. Straight line and the cable. Another landscape nail holding back this area. One thing you'll notice is roots laying along the ground. We had a whole lot of that and caused some complications. We'll talk about that later. And right here, you can't see it, as the last landscape timber nail, which was the end of the line for where the landscape timbers were going to be. Okay, here's a close of it here. Close up. And there's a shot looking back towards the house, back towards the other retaining wall, which is right here. So right along this purple line is where our retaining wall was going to be. And you see this oak tree here? Its root systems were all over the place. And eventually, where this line here runs, where the wall was going to be, there was a huge root going from there to the driveway, which wore me out, cutting it down perpendicular and parallel to the driveway so we could put in the timbers. Okay, when a lot of the trees in our neighborhood were put in they were not, the root ball was not buried properly in the ground. And you have a lot of these trees where you see these girdling roots running around. And here's the evidence of where one used to be, which I cut off. And all this was up in the air, just exposed. And we take care of this problem later. This is some of the tools that I needed: chainsaw, handheld chainsaw, axe, mattock, and of course the proverbial work gloves. Yep, right in here was the war zone. I don't know if you can see it, but right in here is the edge of a root, and that root was huge. So there was a lot of work getting that out. Here it is. This is after I removed the roots that were in the way here. You can see the stump of the tree here sticking up out of the ground like it's not supposed to. And there's a few of the chips of wood laying up on the side. Don't you love a slideshow? But it's not. So anyway, we're cleared out. It's nice and even. We're ready for the landscape timbers now. And my cable TV and internet, blah, 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 cable is up out of the way. What an aggravation that was. This is just some of the roots that I got out. It required 2 chainsaws, a sawzall, which wasn't in the original picture, an axe, a mattock, and eventually I had to take a sledgehammer to it to knock it out of the way. But I got it out. Now, here was me just laying the timbers out to see how they'd look, to get an idea. And you'll see I've got landscaping nails. I'm using them as braces to hold the wood up. And this is the area of the hill that we're trying to take care of right here. And of course, here's your driveway. And there's another view of where they're going to be. We have not done any backfill of dirt or mulch yet. These are some of the existing plants. An iris here. I don't know what this evergreen is. And some variegated liripe here. Look at these ugly railroad ties. Been like that for, they were put in probably 30 years ago. And we'll talk about what I had to do to remove them later. They were not lightweight, let me tell you. And there's another view right there. These did not run all the way down here. They were cut off probably right in here. And here I am, got them sort of lined up by my guideline. And I went ahead and I put in several links. These were pictures I sent to my wife when she was elsewhere while I was working. So here's my line set up right here the way I wanted it to be. I was able with my new 10-inch miter saw to do some nice, perfect lined up cuts here for this nice junction. Earlier in the video I talked about how these old landscape timbers were so dark and these were so light, the new ones. I just hated that interface. But like I said in the earlier video, I hit these old guys with a pressure washer and lightened them up a great degree. These blocks here, they were put here for an elderly person to get out of my car easy and walk on them, but they're gone now. And here's another view of the 50% complete. I'm saying 50% because I'm going to go up higher. You'll see how high later. But this is pretty easy to do. I mean, you get your landscape nails, you have your drills, drill bits, and you also buy rebar of the right length to go vertical between your landscape timbers. And ideally, you put some rebar into these timbers here, into the ground. That's why we had to get the cable TV wire out of the way. And you'll notice you don't see it here. That's just another angle view. It's starting to come along. It's further down. And that's the total view. I'm a photo happy kind of guy, you can tell. But I like to keep records of things. And here we are, finished. 4 landscape timbers high, going way down the driveway. Now we have found out since I put these in, you notice how my driveway curves? It's like in the middle of the screen here, then it goes over towards the tree, then it curves back at an angle back out to the road. And that, now that that wall is in, it's like a guideline for me. I look out at my right side mirror and just guide my car right along, right out, no problem. There's another view, and you see we have gone to, it was either Lowe's or Home Depot. Home Depot was having a big sale on mulch. I think it was Earth Day or something. $2 a bag, so we bought a bunch of them. Just another view. Already bought some plants. There's some Pachysandra there. And another view. Getting ready to load her up. This was a picture I took at night. I don't know why I took another picture at night, but I did. And there we are the next morning, and we have put mulch in. What you can't see here is this area from here that was a deep slope down would have required a whole lot of mulch to fill it up. What we did is we had oodles of big pine cones in the backyard, and we packed along this wall with 5-gallon bucket after 5-gallon bucket of pine cones, and then we laid the mulch on top. And all that's going to break down. Look at these nice, ugly railroad ties. Soon to be gone. Here's some more plants. Some bulb type based plants. I don't even know what they are. My wife does. The iris looks nice. That wall looks nice. Who did that? Pachysandras planted at the base of the maple tree. Good old Acer rubrum, red maple. And you can't see it, but under the mulch here, we got a lot of iris toes, as they call them, planted. So iris is going to be coming up along here next season. And my wife went out and bought some Gerber daisies. There you go. This place is starting to shape up. Now the next thing was, let me go back. You have something nice and pretty here, and it's the old cause and effect thing. Nice and pretty, and then all of a sudden you look over, oh my God, these railroad ties look disgusting. Been living here 6 years, they never bothered me. Well, now they do. So I got up with a junk hauling company, and these were pictures that I took to show him these landscape timbers. I said it again. Let's try again. Railroad ties. There you go, John. Railroad ties going all along here. And I was sending him these pictures of how they were so buried. And here's the buried one here. This served to be a real brute to get out because the roots had all entwined around it. There's some laying on the ground. Isn't that aesthetically pleasing? No. All right. So the reason I took all these pictures is the guy, the junk hauling guy, wanted to know what he was going to get into to take these away. And he said, if you leave them in the ground and I have to get them up, total haul off job's going to be $200. I said, what happens if I get them out and lay them by the wall here somewhere for you to pick up? What price are you going to charge for that? He said, oh, that'll be $100. So you know what I did. I got on it. And man, it was some work. One timber, that one, let me go back to it. This guy right here, I had to go to Tractor Supply and buy what's called a twisted wedge. And I broke this thing up in pieces. Piece, 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 a piece, a piece, a piece, a piece. And finally, I got that stupid thing out. God knows, wore me out. All right, so I picked up all of these guys myself. I'm kind of a brute, I guess. And picked them up and threw them. Boom, right there. And those were pictures I took for him to see where they were when he got here. And ones that were further down the street, towards the end of the street, do you think I was going to carry those all the way back up to the house and add to the other pile? No. I started a new pile right here on the curb. And I don't know why that picture's in there out of order, but that's how ugly it looked before. And here it is finished. And you'll see a rut running along here. I had to dig up about 5 wheelbarrows loads of soil from my backyard and wheeled them out and filled that ditch up so I could put in the nice new landscape timbers. That wheelbarrow job, I thought I'd never finish. That was a lot of work getting it up. And there's the rest of the pile. And the guy came and took them away. And that's pretty much how the yard looked. We got an extra landscape timber there. Yep, the guy hauled everything away. And here is the landscape timbers being put in, not quite finished yet. There's another angle shot. And there's another angle shot. And you know, that's pretty much how it looks now. Except for the fact we bought more mulch, and now the mulch is even with the top of these landscape timbers in the back. And my neighbor came out and said, man, that looks so much better. And I have to agree with him. It does. The transformation of a few pieces of wood and mulch makes a big difference. And I tell you what, since we did this wall, we don't get any runoff. We don't get dirt going out in the driveway. Everything stays nice and clean. So, from that to that. And like I said, all you're going to need is landscape timbers, shovel to dig out a nice level place to put them in. You're going to need your landscape nails. You're going to need some rebar. You're going to need big enough, I think they call them spoon or spade. I can't think of the name of the bit. It's that bit that's flat on the end with a little point. And you just drill the right hole for the rebar. There's one right there. And the right hole for the landscape nails. And you're good to go. So I hope this little discussion gives you a little bit of inspiration and some ideas for adding a raised bed beside a driveway. Taking a problem and turning it into something attractive. And, you know, the old saying about when you're selling your house, something like this is immediate curb appeal. Same thing like planting a lot of plants, trees, it's curb appeal. And it helps you sell your house. Alright, this is Source Codex. Source Codex, aka Jazz Fusion Guy, signing off on one of my how-to videos, demos, tips, and discussions. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments. I'm usually on a comment left within the hour, so I won't leave you hanging. Alright, ciao!